morning, the rooster sang so loudly that even the forest birds woke up. Their air smelled of hay, warm bread, and clean earth. The farm stood in a green valley where the grass shimmered like emeralds in summer and sparkled like silver in winter. On that farm lived a hard-working farmer named George. He had big hands that could fix anything, and a kind smile that could brighten even the rainiest day. He loved his work, his land, and all the animals that lived with him. Every morning, before the sun rose, George would step outside, stretch, look at the sky, and say, "Good morning, Earth. Let's do our best today." And the earth would answer with the soft rustle of leaves and the singing of birds. There were many animals on George's farm. Bessie, the pig, who loved muddy baths. Hilda, the cow, whose milk was sweet and thick. And Thunder, the strong horse with a mane that danced in the wind. But among them lived a very small creature, Emma, the little grey mouse. She wasn't strong or big, and nobody ever asked her for help, but she was clever, curious, and always watching. From her tiny hole in the barn wall, Emma watched everything that happened on the farm. She listened to George talk to his animals, saw how he fixed fences, and how the cow Hilda gently brushed flies away with her tail. And every night, before falling asleep, Emma whispered to herself, "One day I will help too. I just need to know when and how." One morning, heavy grey clouds covered the sky. Rain began to fall and wind bent the trees. But George wasn't afraid of a little storm. Who is scared of a bit of rain when the fields are waiting? He laughed. He petted his old red tractor, which he called Freddy. The two of them had been friends for many years. Freddy had helped plow the fields, carry hay, and bring home the harvest. "Come on, Freddy," George said. "We've got work to do on the north field." The engine roared, the wheels turned, and off they went. From the barnyard, the animals called after him. "Moo, take care," called Hilda, the cow. "Oink, oink, bring something tasty back," grunted Bessie, the pig. Thunder neighed loudly, tossing his mane in farewell, and from her little hole in the wall, Emma the mouse whispered softly, "Be careful, George." The first part of the road was fine, but then they came to a narrow dirt path behind the forest. The ground there was soft, too soft. The rain had turned the earth into sticky brown mud. The tractor's wheels started to slip, and suddenly Freddy sank down deep. George tried to push the gas. The wheels I'm strong. They tied a thick rope to the tractor and the other end around Bessie's belly. Ready, pull, George shouted. Bessie pushed forward with all her might. The mud splashed everywhere, but the tractor didn't move an inch. After a while, Bessie sat down, tired and dirty. I'm sorry, George, she sighed. I tried my best. George smiled kindly. I know you did. Thank you, Bessie. We will find another way. Next, George went to Hilda, the cow. She was strong and calm and always believed the patience could fix anything. Let's give it a try, she said gently. So George tied the rope again. This time, both Bessie and Hilda pulled together. For a moment, the tractor's wheels moved just a little. Hope sparkled in George's eyes, but then squelch. The mud stacked it back down again. The two animals were covered in mud from head to hoof, but they laughed. George just sighed. This isn't going to be easy. Then came Thunder, the proud horse with powerful legs and a shining mane. If anyone can do it, you can, said George. Thunder neighed, stepped into the mud, and pulled hard. The rope stretched, his muscles strained, and George pushed from behind, but the tractor didn't budge. All four, the farmer, the horse, the cow, and the pig, stood there, tired, muddy, and hopeless. George dropped his hat and said sadly, "It is no use. Freddy is stuck for good." The animals lowered their heads. No one spoke. Just then, from the grass nearby, a small grey head appeared. It was Emma, the mouse. She had been watching from a distance. But when she saw how sad everyone looked, she decided to be brave. She ran closer, her tiny paws leaving prints in the mud. "Excuse me," she squeaked shyly. "Maybe I could help." The animals blinked in surprise. "You?" asked Hilda kindly. "Yes," Emma said, her voice small but sure. "I know I'm not strong, but maybe I have an idea." George bent down and smiled. "Well then, what is your idea, little one?" Emma twitched her whiskers and said, "The wheels cannot move because they just been in the mud. But if we put something hard under them, like wooden boards, they will have something to grip. Then maybe the tractor can move." The animals looked at one another. It sounded simple, maybe too simple, but it made sense. "Let's try it," said George. They hurried back to the farm. George found some old wooden boards that he had saved from fixing the barn roof. Together they loaded them onto the cart. Bessie pulled, Hilda pushed, and little Emma ran beside them, proud and excited. When they reached the muddy field, George and the animals worked together. He placed the boards under the tractor's wheels. Hilda helped steady them with her horns. Bessie pressed them down with her hooves, and Thunder stood ready to pull. When everything was ready, Emma climbed onto a small rock and squeaked, "On 3, everyone together. 1, 2, 3. George, we did it. The animals cheered, splashed, and danced in the mud. Thunder lifted his front legs. Bessie rolled happily. Hilda moved in joy, and George laughed out loud. And in the middle of it all stood Emma, small, muddy, but smelling from ear to ear. When they got back home, George decided that everyone deserved a feast. He poured extra grain for the animals, gave Hilda fresh apples, and filled Betsy's trough with her favorite mash. Then he knelt down and took something from his pocket, a small piece of cheese. "This is for you, Emma," he said warmly. "You saved us all." Emma took the cheese with shining eyes. "Thank you, George. I just wanted to help." "And you did," said the farmer. "You showed us that wisdom is stronger than muscles." The animals nodded. That night the whole farm was full of laughter, gentle music of crickets, and the smell of hay. Everyone was happy and grateful. From that day on, whenever there was a problem on the farm, someone would always say, "Let's ask Emma what she thinks." When a fence broke, Emma found clever ways to fix it. When a sack of grain went missing, she crawled into tiny spaces and found where it had fallen. And one day she even saved a small bird that got stuck between two boards. Farmer George admired her more and more. Every evening, as the stars appeared, he would smile and say, "If people listened to the smallest voices, the world would be a wiser place." And from her little hole, Emma would whisper softly, "It doesn't matter how big you are, only how big your heart is." So story of the little mouse who saved the tractor spread far and wide, not because she was strong, but because she was brave enough to think differently. And even today, they say that if you walk past that old farm, you might hear a tiny voice in the grass saying, "Remember, wisdom can fit inside even the smallest heart." And this is the end. I wish you good night and sweet dreams.